Welcome back to the Flow State with Sean and Tyler LaFlock. This is episode number 4. Thank you so much for listening thus far. We've been getting some great feedback from our listeners. Anything that you talk about, we want to hear. The good, the bad, and the ugly. In this episode, my favorite episode thus far, Tyler and I go into so many different topics of personal growth and development, from assessing how we perceive the world versus others, and how to actually grow your business by being more genuine and authentic. Guys, if you like this podcast, please go online, rate, review. It helps us grow the podcast. We're available on the Google Play Marketplace, iTunes. We're also available on Spotify and Spreaker. Please enjoy this next podcast. It is my favorite thus far. Enjoy. CliffBot.
The origins of the KillCliff bot. We got a bunch of deliveries of KillCliffs. We had a bunch. Hey!
Hi!
What's going on?
Not much. How you doing?
You're not part of the podcast,
I'm
Myra.
good.
How are you doing?
I haven't been invited yet, so not even one. Not even one.
I haven't done one.
Oh,
yet.
because you're so receptive to podcasts, Myra.
Hey, I'm Sean's roommate. How's it going?
Hey,
Well, you
what's
just
going on?
said, "Oh, I haven't been invited," and run out of the podcast. Then you said, "Say hello to Myra. You're in the podcast now," and then
Oh,
you
it's
ran
on
away.
right now?
Yes, it's right on right now. I just said 3 seconds ago, I'm podcasting with my brother.
Can this please be the intro?
Of course it is. That's why I'm recording.
It's not
Yeah, it's recording. It's live.
It's live. Oh, hey.
All right, Myra. Myra, you're in the hot seat. Here we go. Uh-oh. She's starting to sweat.
Ah!
It'd be the greatest
Is this on?
podcast ever.
Is this on?
This is on.
This whole time?
Yeah.
All right, Tyler, hold on.
You gotta kill the quit real quick.
This podcast is sponsored by KillCliff.
KillCliff.
Drinks for Warriors. Now, it's don't kill the quit. It's Drinks for
Drinks
Warriors.
war.
Maybe
That's
that
funny.
will be the name of the podcast this week. Drinks for Warriors.
Yeah, well, it's funny. The person who at one point did the marketing for KillCliff went to our gym.
Really?
This guy Khan. Yeah, Khan.
Apparently
Really
they didn't
good
do very
dude.
well because they had to rebrand.
Well, I imagine that he might have had something to do
Maybe
with
he
it.
had, yeah,
We'll
maybe it has
see.
something to do with that. I think. Well, that's a good place to start. Let me put
Rebranding?
What was that?
Rebranding?
No. Well, it's funny. All right. There's a couple things I want to unwrap on this one. One.
Okay.
The simplicity of marketing these days is like the new meta.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No. Let me
Come
unpack
on.
that.
Unpack that. All right.
Unpack that for me.
What's the
So you-
What's the number one selling like nutrition bar right now in your mind?
RX bar?
Why?
Because I eat them.
Because you eat. No, I'm just saying. But what do you think about them makes them so marketable?
The fact that they're no added ingredients.
Okay, there's a lot of protein bars, nutrition bars that have no added ingredients. Was this the first time there was no added ingredients?
No.
Go
that's
deeper.
not it. Go deeper.
Or go more superficial?
Go more superficial. Well, I think for me, they marketed towards my demographic. Like they went into the CrossFit gyms and they got the RX idea. You know, you
Okay,
tie
all right,
RX
we're getting
to your
on to
workout.
something. An RX
Right.
bar. What does the wrapper look like?
Ooh, it looks like the ribbons that we used to have in swim team.
Okay, it looks like a ribbon on swim team, so it kind of looks like a certificate. But think about this.
Yeah.
When you pick up a protein bar, what's the first thing you look at?
The image of the protein bar itself, and there's no image of the RX bar.
Okay, so you get too
right.
analytical
No.
here. Think simpler. The first time you
Okay.
pick up a protein bar, what's the first thing you look at? Like not like I'm
The
holding the bar.
ingredients on the back.
Thank you.
The ingredients on the back.
Exactly. The ingredients. They put the ingredients right on the front. Why? Because they're like, dude, we're so confident in what we have. I'm going to show you what we have. And the last line is what?
Oh, something simple something. What
No
does it say?
BS.
Just no BS. Yeah,
No
that's it.
BS. Right?
No BS.
It's got
That's
6
right.
peanuts, 2 dates, an almond, no BS.
You know what that stands for?
What?
No bad stuff.
You know what's funny though? They make a kids one now with like it's like the nuts
Yep.
on there has like a face on it. It looks like a poo emoji almost.
Yeah.
But they do that and it says no bad stuff.
Right.
Literally says
And
it.
it's
So there's
perfect.
no like double entendre there, right?
Right, exactly.
All right, so let's talk about that. Let's unwrap that even more. So when you look at a protein bar that says that, are you like, wow, this is appealing to me, right?
Well, for me especially, because when I pick up a bar, I'm trying to eat something that is whole food or as
Yes.
close to whole food as possible.
Yes.
And then that's what aligns with my principles and what I put in my body. So the farther I can go away, it's easy. I don't have to think about putting something together, and I could just, this is as close to raw food as possible.
Yep.
With all of the convenience.
Yep. I completely agree. So when you look at most products these days, and when you look at like most of the things in the mainstream, they want to sell you on something, right? They're trying to convince you of something. I think the new consciousness that's happening right now is I'm going to make myself so great. I'm going to tell you everything about me, and there's nothing that you can find that's going to be unappealing to me, because just me is the appealing part. If you break me down in my components, I'm too simple. My totality is what makes me great.
Yeah. I also think a lot of products that we're seeing nowadays are so targeted.
Mm-hmm.
And are becoming more niche, but like niche can work now because we're so good at finding that market with analytics and Facebook and everything like that. So I can come out with a product and be like, this is a pretty targeted product. Like maybe only females 35 to 45 will be interested in this, but I could go out and find a huge percentage of that through Instagram, through Facebook, and it's so heavily targeted. So I can come out with products that are so unique to people and not worry about having to be marketed to the entire population.
Exactly, because nowadays you literally can have one product sent to a door for a fraction of the price that would be, say, if you had to open up a store and then sell it and then find the people, right? So say 1 out of 100 people like your product, and you're like, oh, only 1% of people like my product. Put that into the United States. That's 32 million people.
Exactly.
So 32 million people bought your product, you'd be a billionaire.
Right.
Right?
And that's 1 in 100. Well,
that's a 1 in 100. And even if you got 1 out of 1,000 people, that's still 3.2 million people in this country alone that would buy your product. Mm-hmm. Right? All right. So, the general concept here is, I think, authenticity. Right?
Authenticity.
People are coveting and really gravitating toward authenticity, and maybe vulnerability could be something else. What were your thoughts?
Authenticity and vulnerability. And what authenticity and vulnerability does is it positions you as an authority in that market. So if I go ahead.
Keep going. That was a good thought.
Yeah, so if I am, let's say, trying to position myself as the coach for people with back pain, because for me, myself, I went through back pain training in CrossFit, and I went through my own process of figuring out how to continue to train along with this back pain, figure that out, but still progress my body and get the results that I wanted. I went through that process myself. I can now speak to the issues that those people are feeling, and I can position myself as an authority figure because I'm authentic. I know that's something I've been through. I'm not bullshitting these people because I went through it myself, and I can speak to their pain points, and I can really position myself and connect with those people.
Let me go even deeper. When you see somebody being vulnerable and authentic, you're going to have one of two things that comes up. One, that person makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm going to run away. Mm-hmm. Or two, you gravitate toward it.
Yeah.
Both of those responses have the same reason, though. What's the reason?
Truth.
Okay. Think more about ourselves.
Well, why I said truth
go ahead.
is alluding to what you had mentioned a couple episodes ago. When somebody says something and it really bothers you and really gets under your skin, is because there's truth under it. If there wasn't truth under it, it wouldn't impact you in that way. So if somebody's opening themselves up and being vulnerable, it might spark something in you that you dislike, and that's why you run from it, or you're fearful of it because it's so unnatural.
Yes.
Or on the flip side of that, because this person is opened themselves up and is vulnerable, it shows you like, wow, this person's willing to bare their soul and put themselves out there, and their message is connect, and I believe in their message, then that is something that I'm going to lean into.
So let me add on to that, because that's awesome. So when you see somebody be vulnerable, whatever, it plucks the cord within us, right? But it also gives us the accessibility of us being vulnerable too, and perhaps accepting who we are. So that's why those people will create that space for us, right? And if they create that space for us, it allows us the ability to go ahead and step into our own vulnerability and accept who we are. Or it makes us, like you said, face the fact that you don't want to accept yourself. So if someone comes at you with this open heart and beauty, and you're like, no, I don't want that, and you push them away, basically they're admitting that they're not accepting their own vulnerability and beauty, right? And that might be where they are in that stage, because as we've said many times before, you can only love on the same level that you love yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And you can only accept others at the same level that you accept yourself.
For sure.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. It makes a ton of sense.
So let's go back to just like a regular who we are as coaches, and something that I have seen in the world, and the reason why I gravitate towards so many people, and I'll use him as an example, is Max. I'm so envious of who Max is as a coach, as a human, because on a certain level that there is this freedom that he possesses, and this acceptance of who he is. And even though he might call you a dickhead and like, you know, bust your balls and shit like that, and has this about him, you gravitate toward him because you're like, yo, he's accepting, right? And even in that his acceptance, he can still like bust your chops, because he's like, I'm just pushing you to make you finally surrender to the fact that you're okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even in your bullshit, even in your turmoil, even in your self-hatred, hey, accept yourself, because it's so much easier this way. And I think that's where I was always envious of him in a lot of ways, and a lot of people, not just Max.
Yeah. Just in terms of coaching and connecting, if you haven't done that work yourself as a coach,
yes,
that is where bad coaching comes into play.
Fantastic.
Right?
Keep going. I love that.
So if you haven't done the work, that inner work yourself, then that's when you get a coach who is his players hate, right? They don't like to play for them. They won't run through a wall for them because they don't feel because they feel the love is conditional, because that coach will only like you if you are playing well. That coach will only give you praise if you are, let's go with football. So that coach will only give you love or acceptance when you get a nice hit. But if you're missing your assignments and they're just like laying into you, or there was just listening to a podcast with Aubrey Marcus, and he draws a distinction between Pete Carroll and Mike McCarthy in this game, playoff game, where the Packers were up big and the Seahawks were, did I say Patriots? I meant Seahawks.
No, I think you did say Seahawks. I assumed it was Pete Carroll. Go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, so it's Seahawks, Packers, and the Packers are up during the game, and the Seahawks are getting trashed, and Russell Wilson's playing like shit, and then all of a sudden, Seahawks just start putting things together, and they end up having to kick an onside kick, and the hands team guys on the Packers, his tight end Bostic, he ends up flubbing it bounces off his hands, and the Seahawks get the onside kick. And Aubrey highlights this moment where at that point Mike McCarthy is laying into the guy Bostic and just crushing him, like just being so harsh and critical on him. And he, on the flip side of that, when Russell Wilson wasn't playing well during the game, Pete Carroll was like, I got your back. Just keep playing. You got this. And just kept on being supportive in the moment. So he draws. So what happens is the Seahawks go on, get the ball. They still needed to score a touchdown, right? So the Packers, Mike McCarthy had an opportunity there to say to his team, hey guys, let's pick him up. We've stopped teams like this before. We've stopped teams better than this before. And let's rally the troops, as opposed to he went the inverse and just kind of laid into this guy. So just that kind of crystallizes two different coaches, right? One who is, has your back, and if he sees your effort and your attitude, then they're going to support that, as opposed to another coach who is, their praise and their disposition is completely dependent on how their team is performing.
Yep. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I love that story, and I think that there's tons of amazing things within that. A couple things that came up for me is, I guess, the biggest, trait in a coach, not only just a football coach, but also coaches, fitness coaches, that kind of stuff. Is your appreciation contingent upon the things you do, or is it because you're just there? Right. And do they give you the freedom of being you? Because if you take away the yin, there can be no yang, right? If you take away the ability for sad, there can be no happiness, true happiness, right? There has to be that pendulum. We can't have just sunny days, because then there's no appreciation of those sunny days, right?
Right. Exactly.
And at the very and to think of it another way, even if you take away all the pain, or you're only allowing, let's say, good stuff to happen, then what are we setting ourselves up for? We fear the opposite.
Right.
And if we fear the opposite, we move from places of fear, we actually attract the things that we don't want. Right. So here's the law of attraction, and you probably have heard this before, and this is the way I talk about it. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you are moving from places of fear, the things that you fear will come to you.
Right.
If you're moving from places of love, the things you love will come to you.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So, and I believe that the universe does this to basically teach you who you really are. Right. So say you're afraid of losing your money. The universe is just wanting to take all of your money, to strip you down and say, you are not your money. And that is an amazing gift in a lot of ways, because it is showing you that you are more than your money. So if you always have your money and you're afraid to lose it, you never find out who you really are. On the opposite side of that, imagine you're like, I am just love. And the universe is saying, okay, I want to prove that you are love. It's just going to give you things to love. It's going to give you abundance. It's going to give you all the people in the world who want to love you, and then you can love them back. So the universe is always trying to strip you down to your essence, and that is that you are just this being of love, and that you come from this energy that is trying to, that is temporarily in this form, and then we'll go back into the ether one day. And I think if we kind of approach ourselves, not only in coaching, but in business, in athletics, with that mindset, all of a sudden the game starts to change. What's your thoughts on the law of attraction?
Yeah, there's a lot that resonates with me when you're saying that. And my 2 cents on that is, I have been very perceiving things through the lens of survival mode and abundance mode, or survival mode and creative mode, or creation. And that, it's the same idea, right? So survival mode is when you're focused on what you don't want. How can your body, how can your mind, how can you receive the inputs of what you do want if you're always focused on what you don't want?
Yeah.
So there's that element of it. I had another thing that I wanted to say there too, but I'm kind of blanking
Can
on
I
it.
can I jump in and then maybe
Yeah, jump in. Yeah, and that way I can see if it comes back to me.
and if, write it down if you come up with it. So
Yeah.
talking about focusing on things that you don't want. Now, this is where I am at a crossroads of where I am, because yesterday I talked to my therapist about dealing with my own pain. And a lot of the times, like, obviously I listen to a lot of people who've been there before. These kind of are like my pseudo mentors. And I think that's something that we have these days because we have the accessibility of almost anybody. But what we don't have is the ability to interact with them and kind of be personalized with them. And kind of see how their journey went, so that we say, okay, this is what you're giving me, but like, tell me about what happened with you, right? So say I'm like, man, I feel my pain here in my chest. If I focus on that, will that instigate more of the pain? Right? So I'm trying to be this presence. I'm trying to be this presence that allows that to be there. But at some point, does the ego, and this is what my experience may be, is at some point has my ego hijacked this practice of making it more of an achiever type thing.
Right.
Once I overcome this, then I'll finally be happy.
Perfect. Okay. That also relayed me back to the point is,
talk to me, Tyler.
Okay. So
enlighten
what
me.
I wanted to, enlighten you. What I wanted to mention before is this idea of being involved with the process, not being outcome driven, and being consumed with learning. And it's funny you were saying this before, like, why would life make us struggle why would life prevent you with struggle? Because struggle is the only opportunity where you're going to learn. And if you didn't have the struggle, you wouldn't be able to learn and grow from that struggle. And you, like we were saying, if there wasn't the yin and the yang. So if, for instance, if I said, Sean, tomorrow you get your winning lottery ticket and you get $100 million, or I would say after 20 years of working your ass off, you will have $100 million in the bank, which would you go with?
Well, obviously, for me, I would say I would want the long term, because I want to be able to grow.
Right. And
well, a lot of people would say, give me the fucking lottery ticket now.
They would, but I think it also goes back to what we were saying last week with Beyonce and Jay-Z, and the fact that they know, like, they know that they're millionaires. So if they lost their money, they didn't go. So the person who gets that lottery, then they haven't gone through the process. And even if let's say that person gets that money and they can keep that money for the rest of their life, what did they learn? What was the meaning? So, like you were saying before, in going and feeling and trying to be that feeling, your ego or your mind starts coming in and says, okay, we need to fix this. We need to eliminate this feeling. And rather than, okay, I see this, it's growing, this pain, it's growing. And okay, now it's subsiding a little bit. Okay, now it's subsiding. And now you're sitting back, and it just takes practice and just being with it, of sitting with it and being patient with it and not trying to fix it and allowing things to be. So this is a big thing I learned from Training Camp for the Soul. Like, my inclination when people are in a bad mood is I want to make them in a good mood.
Yep.
Or if somebody's sad, I may have played a role in why they are sad. So
yep. Meanwhile, you may have never seen them before in your life.
Exactly.
Yep.
Or if somebody is having a session with me and they're just not it's just not their day. Nothing's feeling right. They're just despondent and kind of checked out in a way. And I just am in that moment. I'm self-evaluating. I'm like, what did I do to make this person in this position? So rather than, and it's been a practice, and it's taking a lot of self-awareness and different moments and different situations to be able to, rather than take on the onus of trying to change this person, step back and hold space.
Yeah.
And that is something that is trying to basically go deep into my programming and undo in a way or reprogram in a way, and it's clunky right now, but it's definitely improving because it's a very it's a skill being able to hold space for somebody.
Yeah.
To
Go ahead.
go ahead, you can go ahead.
It's funny how we are so far apart where we learn this stuff, but we are pretty much exactly in line with each other about that idea of holding space. My thing is like I'm going about my day, something plucks a chord, and now I'm like, all right, now my job is to stay with that and be with it and blah blah blah, right? But does that take me out of the moment? Does that take me out of living? Right? What are your thoughts on that?
So give me a concrete example again.
Okay, so someone comes in and they walk by me and they don't say hello. And I'm like, oh man, that makes me feel like this. Okay, cool. So I'm going to be with that right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, do I really have to be with that? Or do I just go, okay, I'm just going to go about my day? You know, am I making something out of nothing? Am I trying to achieve something like, oh, I just got a mountain to climb. Let me climb that mountain because now I proved my worthiness, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the slippery kind of thing that I just don't know. And here's the thing, because I basically had like a catatonic meltdown yesterday where I was like, I have no idea what my fucking life is anymore. And those happen every once in a while. Like I don't know where to go. Like I didn't know whether to step in and be like, hey, okay, cool. Like life is great. Let me enjoy myself. I didn't know where to revert back and be disconnected. But I was just like I was scared to make my next move.
Okay.
Right.
So what is this in relation to? Just like business? Is this like stuff at the gym? Is it stuff with your relationship? Is it stuff with coaching?
This was literally, I had a conversation with my girlfriend. And then later on the week, I was like, you know, I kind of like something came up, or it's just like the next day where I'm like, some people are just like, yo, I'm just enjoying this moment here. I'm like, yo, I never am enjoying the moment. Right? I'm like, it's more of me like, I feel this way. I understand the moment's there, but I got to do this before I can enjoy the moment.
Okay.
You know, there's always something I have to do in order for me to get to like loving life.
Yes.
Like even in me saying like, I need to start loving life. Like that also connotates, like has the underlying message that it's somewhere else to be.
Right.
Instead of being here. It's like I want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to be happy. So that means that it's somewhere else and I got to go get there. I think that's kind of what's coming up for me right now.
Okay. So
fix me.
And that fix
me now.
Right? I feel a lot of similar stuff. In order for me to think that I deserve downtime or be able to just breathe and relax, I have to go do something first. Like I have to go program something for somebody, or I have to go set something in my schedule. And it's like, oh, like, okay, I did something, so now I can get some downtime.
Yeah.
So similar along the lines, but I understand the resistance and the need to be doing in order to feel like you deserve something.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like, I think that's the achiever in us, right? So whenever we're trying to, I mean, it has gotten us so far. Like, okay, here's my obstacle. I overcome the obstacle. I have this feeling of elation. Time to go to the next obstacle.
Right.
Right.
I think we could draw this back to the coaching element too, which is conditional love versus unconditional love. Right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So
none of your other points were good. That was a good point. No, I'm kidding.
Perfect. So if you're doing well, like, and I mean, and that's what's programmed us from kids, right? If we're doing well and we're performing well, then we get love, we get praise, we get cheers, we get applause, we get awards if we do well. Now, on the flip, we could, on the complete flip side of that, we can take it way too on the other end, and everybody's a winner and soft edges on everything. So you like creating that like amount of struggle that I believe everyone needs in order to grow, but not making everybody dependent on outcomes. Like how can we be more place more praise on the process and the effort and the authenticity and the truth under it? How can we and it goes back to like what we've like, it's the internal work, right?
Yes.
And
I will say also to add is that it's hard to do that when you're surrounded by achievers, because everybody wants to know how they're doing. Did I do good enough? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be doing? And I'm like, I have no fucking clue what you should be doing. You know, somewhere deep inside of you, you just are attached to this idea that you have to figure out the reason. And when you trying to figure out the reason, you're pushing yourself further away from the answer. Yeah. Because again, the answer is always right there if you're willing to accept it. Right?
Right. Well, it's like it's connecting with your higher self in a way.
Yes.
Watch your clicking of the pen. We don't want this a Mel Gibson podcast.
Oh my God. You did that the first episode too, and I forgot to say that.
I know.
Sorry.
That's okay. I know. I went back and listened. I'm like, oh my God, I'm Mel.
You're Mel.
It's hell being Mel.
Damn you, Mel.
I totally lost my train of thought. I had such a good one coming on too. What were we just saying? We were saying that
so
higher self.
Yes.
Okay, higher self. So
go, Tyler.
So I started OCA this week, Online Coach Accelerator, and the first thing call that we did, or in this call, what they had us do is, okay, if you could wake up tomorrow and you can have everything you want, write that down. And so I started writing my notes. So for me, things like, I want to live by the ocean. I want to have a garage gym. I want to have a gym with a studio in it that I can create videos and music, and I can invite my friends, and I create with people who I love and I jive with in that studio. And it's also a place for people to work out, and it's a great environment. And what were some other things that I was? And I had $1 million in the bank, and I could pay for I could pay for all of us to go on vacation, and we can all go on vacation together, and I could go on vacations with my friends. All right, whatever. So I wrote all that down, and then she said, okay, out of those goals, what of the 10 make you not only the most excited but also feel fearful? Okay. And then I highlighted the 10. And then after that, okay, those 10 goals, what do you have to become in order to achieve those goals?
There we go.
So then I wrote, Tyler LaFlock schedules his days. Tyler LaFlock creates marketing that connects with his niche. Tyler LaFlock is vulnerable and truthful in how he presents himself. Tyler LaFlock creates to-do lists and crushes them. Tyler LaFlock gets shits done. And I just wrote all these things. And then she was like, okay, that is your higher self. That's your higher self coming through. All of those things right there. So like you said, we know what to do, because I was able to list exactly out what that person, in order to achieve those things, what I need to become. And then once I wrote it down, it clarified and it clicked. It was like, oh shit. Like I did know what to do. I just needed to put it in that. I just needed the tools to unlock it in a way.
Yeah. And you needed to let your ego get out of the way. And by doing that exercise, your heart comes through and you actually can see what your heart looks like. Whereas when you're trying to figure it out, you're like, I have no fucking clue, which goes back to the point I was making. Trying to figure it out is actually getting further away from the answer.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other point I want to make about that as well, is that how excited were you when you wrote down those things? And scared, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was reading, I was like, oh shit. I got really excited. I wrote one down. I was like, I'm going to take a trip to fucking Peru and I'm going to have a shaman there. And he's one of the most well-known shaman around, and he's going to fucking take me through.
He's going to ayahuasca you?
He's going to ayahuasca the shit out of me. And I'm going to have all these revelations. And, yeah.
Okay.
And definitely the the having like I've always pictured in my mind being surrounded with like a group of funny, like-minded people, and we're just able to riff off one another and create fucking really funny videos or really funny music. That's always been like a dream of mine.
Maybe you are and you just haven't realized it yet.
It could be. Yeah.
That's the scary thing that I always talk about. It's like, you know what? Like all these crazy things, blah, 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 blah. Like, what if I just gave you a pair of glasses and I put it on your eyes and you go, holy shit, I was here the whole time. That's the fucked up part about life. And like when people go, yo, life is beautiful, I'm like, go fuck yourself. When I figure this stuff out, like once I get past this and like I'm working on it, you know what? I'm not saying that that's a possibility, but I got to get this done first and then I get to enjoy life.
Yeah.
That idea scares the shit out of me. And that means there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If there's something there, there's got to be truth to it.
Right. So, and that's the cool part. That's what fear is, a great messenger.
Yep.
Like, what scares you?
Yes.
Okay. Oh shit, that's scaring me. Okay, this is an opportunity to fucking change some shit.
So here's the thing. Ego, and I had a revelation the other day, or I don't know, a revelation. I think that's very
clarity. You had some clarity.
Got some
clarity.
What is the role of ego? It is not necessarily to protect us. It is to hide our fears. It is to keep us away from what we're afraid of. Because as soon as you are aware of something you're afraid of, you are now shining the light of awareness on it.
Mm.
And when you shine the light of awareness on something, it actually loses power.
Right.
So if you just walk around and you're like, you never walk on the left side of the road.
Mm.
And you're like, oh, there's this great $1 million prize right over there. Like, nope, that's not for me. What do you mean that's not for you? Just cross over the road. Those things, I never do those things. Really? So why don't you just step right there? No, I don't step on that side of the road. Are you afraid of the left-hand side of the road? What do you mean? You've never stepped over there before. Well, I guess I might be. Boom. Opens up.
Right.
Now you're dealing with something that you're actually afraid of. Now from there, obviously the achiever says, what do I need to do to overcome my fears? Let me walk on every left-hand side of the road in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now that might be the next step for you if you're like, yo, man, this will expand me if I do that. Mm-hmm. If you're like, oh, what do I get out of it if I do that? And that's kind of going back to what you said before of like, we're always focusing on outcome.
Yeah. What if we just focus on what will we learn?
Yeah.
Rather than being
what's trying to emerge, like we said before.
Yeah. Like what is it? Yeah.
But that's scary.
What are you changing within yourself to become that?
Yeah. That's scary though.
Yeah.
Like what
it is.
You're going to die. Like we've said this before, you are going to die. Who you think you are is going to be gone. And your ego goes, no, we can't have that. And it's funny because I heard someone talk about this the other day. Like, oh, if I do that, I'd die. Or it feels like dying. They're like, have you ever died before? They're like, no. Then how do you know what dying feels like? How do you know dying's not the best thing ever? Right? Now to go back
if you're like minute on the air dying, I was gonna feel like dying.
It's like, how do you know what dying feels like? You've never died before. It's just gonna be terrible. You're gonna be in pain, but that's not dying.
Yeah.
The other thing
it's as close to life as possible.
Absolutely. There's no more in the moment than you are than when you're huffing and puffing on an assault bike or an Airdyne, right?
Or rolling around on the ground afterwards.
Oh my God, that's the best feeling in the world. Okay.
I think, all right, sorry.
Go ahead.
You sound like you have something, but keep going.
No worries. So one of the things that I've heard before and kind of like resonates with me a bit is when you come up with those lists, don't get excited about the list. Get excited about yourself. Right?
Okay.
Because you're again attaching this great power to the things that you wrote. You're the fucking one who wrote it.
Yeah.
Get excited about yourself because you can keep doing that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time what I do is I go, oh, wow, that's such a good idea. And then never do it.
Right.
Because I was excited about the idea. And when the idea goes, that's it.
Yeah.
But I'm the one who came up with it.
You know what I've been thinking about lately is my huge
penis.
Yes.
Sorry,
that's
I had
what
to go
it is.
there. This now has an NC-17 rating.
My need to be original and unique, and how like that is tied into the judge inside of me. Like, I'm so judgmental of myself in being original and unique because that's something I prioritize so much. And anytime I'm on Instagram, I feel that come out of me because I'm looking at someone and I'm like, there's 20,000 other people doing exactly what you're doing. And it scares me to do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be lumped in my mind like I'm now one of those unoriginal, not unique persons. And I'm so tied up in being original and unique. That is something of like, that's like that's like on my top principles. That's like probably one or two of being original and unique. But there isn't like, that's such a what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? It's like from person to person, it's such a subjective. It's so subjective being original and unique.
So
there's no. Yeah, go ahead.
So for me, and let me know if I lose you because I just want to kind of step outside, make it a little quieter maybe. And now I'm in nature, and now I smell someone smoking a cigarette. But I think is it a little quieter now?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it was quiet before, to be honest. It wasn't too bad.
Oh, cool, perfect. Maybe the microphone helps. But what were we talking about?
Original and unique being the number one.
Okay, so my thought was this. Being original and unique. There's two ways to think about this. Everybody's doing it, so there must be something onto it, right? You buy there's a reason why people buy iPhones. Because they're great products.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So if you're like, I don't want to buy the product because everybody else is buying it, and you get some shit Sprint PCS or Metro PCS phone and it breaks every 3 seconds. Okay, so where does that come from? It comes from ego. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
The other way to think about it is nobody's doing that, so I'm not going to do it. Well, wait a second. If nobody else is doing that, you go do it, and then everybody will come to you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
We've told that before, like the Amazon thing. Nobody's selling books online. Let's go fucking sell books online. Because nobody's doing it. Let's go create.
Yeah.
So, the other thing is that anything that comes out of your mouth is unique. Because if you go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, that's not unique enough for me, whatever, like, again, that's subjective value. Are you using English language? That's not unique. You got to come up with your own fucking language then. You got to come up with the Globlock language. And Globlock, like, look. Oh, no, that's pretty fucking original. But no one's going to be able to fucking resonate with you. Think about it this way. If you're not unique, that means if you're not like one of a kind, then no one's going to resonate with you.
Right. Yeah. If
you have a problem that everybody else has a problem with and you do it in an authentic way, you're going to attract people because like, wow, I feel the same way as you. This person has a new perspective. I'd love to hear more from you.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much puts the nail on the head. And by you doing it authentically, that makes it original and unique.
And by doing the work to grow, which you're doing. It's just more about like taking the steps to actually leap and doing like those little things, like you said, meditating, writing things down, doing journaling and all those things, and then just stepping into it and then just keep going. Right? Like, so, you mentioned this OCA.
Yeah.
I'm doing a fitness and wellness challenge right now, and I sold 20 challenge packs in a morning. 20 challenges, like I was just on fire because I was just in my spirit. I got 2 hours of sleep the night before, and I was just so in the zone and in the flow. And I literally started my 6 a.m. class. I go, I hope everyone's wearing diapers because you're about to shit your pants. And boom, right from there, I went into this like 5-minute boom, 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 boom. And then everybody's like, oh, well, I don't know. And they were just like, oh, I'm signing up. And it didn't obviously happen like this, like, whoa, we're all signing up, like in a very theatric way. They're like, yeah, I'll sign up. You know what I mean? And 20 people signed up in that morning. I was just in my space. I was like, there's no way this isn't going to work. So if I were to think about like, how do I get these people to sign up? That brings me in the place of I'm not enough or I have to get somewhere. If I was just so into it that everything, oh my God, like these cool ideas came up and these nice, like, it was funny. It was sincere. It was everything that I ever could imagine happened. Now, once that was over, I go, how do I make that happen every time? And that's where the ego comes in. They go, I want lightning in a bottle all the time.
Yeah, and your ego will say, we got 20 people, so now next time we have to get 30 people in order for it to have measured up.
Yes.
Or the ego will point out, exactly, yeah. So, like, next time you do a challenge, or, well, how long are you going to be marketing, and when does the challenge open up?
So the challenge is like a 6-week challenge. The first week of the challenge, when they sign up, they complete 4 tasks. They do they do body fat testing just on just like a scale, just to keep it simple, just so they have something relatively objective. Then they do a mile run, a 1-minute max push-up test, and then a max front plank hold. And then they retest it after 6 weeks. They're going to get resources all the way throughout. Like, great, we set up a MailChimp, so there's nice, beautiful content that's actually packaged well, something that looks and sounds good. And obviously, it's my work for the last 10 years and Myra's work and anybody who's contributing on it, and it's packaged in a nice way. Then what we're going to do is a call-in on Wednesday nights, and that call-in is going to kind of go over some concepts, some of the content, but also it's kind of give homework assignments.
Mm-hmm.
And then people that call in or log in to this stream, we're going to kind of go over that. So that's that accountability aspect of it, right?
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing when we're creating new habits. It's like, well, who's holding me accountable? And I know that's like kind of lower frequency, but you need that in the beginning in a lot of ways.
Yes, 100%. You need a resource. You need somebody when because whenever you're encountering something new, you're going to get confused at one point. And for me, when I get confused, I shut down in a way, and it leads me to avoiding. I procrastinate it, as opposed to if I'm confused and I know I have somebody, I'll get on there, I'll ask them. I'm like, hey, Sean, I wasn't sure about how to do this front plank variation, and you're like, oh, no worries, Tyler. Here's a video of me doing it right here. And you're like, oh, perfect.
Yep.
So, like you said, accountability. And I listened to something, it's like I forget where I heard it, but they were saying everything, like, the future is going to be context and how you package things, because all of this information is out there.
Always available.
And it's always available, but how do I get it so it goes into somebody's brain and they actually implement it and make it actionable?
Yep.
So that's the key as a coach, is all of this shit. Like everybody's obsessed as a coach with accumulating knowledge. But where we lack is, how do we take that knowledge and make it actionable to the individual? Because because there's no really like guidebook or like textbook on that. You have to get out there, experiment, and see what works and what doesn't work.
Well, that's why you look at the Ben Greenfields, the Tim Ferrisses, the Aubrey Marcuses. That's why they're so popular, is because they've done it, they've been there, they've explored, and now they put it in a way, in a lot, like you said, a lot of it is about packaging. They put it in a way where it resonates with a lot of people, and they don't have to go through the process themselves. They're like, give me everything you've learned in the last 10 years in a 20-minute pitch.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I think that's you hit the nail on the head on that one, Tyler. And I think that's why right now, that's what I'm focusing on for my own brand as well, Flock Fitness, is like just coming up with a nice short vignette and then just getting people involved. Like, here's your short vignette. Here's something I offer. I want to build trust. I don't want to sell you right away. I want to give you. I want to give. And I want you to be able to like, I want to build rapport with you. Just imagine, like, you're on a date with a girl. Are you like, okay, cool, I'm worth it, and you should have sex with me? Or you should marry me? Like, that doesn't really work that way. It works by building trust. Like, you know what you want in the end is like maybe getting a relationship, maybe having sex with them, maybe marrying them. But you can't just jump to that, because that other person doesn't know you from the hole in the wall.
Right.
So what are your actions that create that value and trust? Exactly.
And connection.
Yes.
Well, going back to where we started this whole thing in terms of coaching, before you can even, and this is once again going from the podcast I just listened to with Aubrey Marcus, he discusses before you even go into the X's and O's as a coach, you need to build that connection first.
Yep.
You need to build that trust first, because why that person isn't going to run through a wall for you because they don't think that you're not connected with them. You don't trust them. You don't love them. So, and that is as a coach, when somebody steps into your gym or somebody you're on a call with them, the number one priority is, well, first doing the inner work to have an actual service that is going to be a fucking no-brainer for them, and is going to help them, and you're 100% sure that this person is aligned with what you're offering. And once you know that like you're trying, like this is what it's selling with quotes around it it's just not as big of an issue.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened in that morning, is like you knew, you were from a place of knowing that this is exactly what these people needed, and you were so confident in what you were offering that it shined through, and there was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm in.
Yeah. And to kind of put a bow on things, and one of the concepts that I want to approach with you now that we have just a few more minutes left is that something that comes up for me is like, usually like life is between two choices. Like, do I stay? Do I go? Do I start this business? Do I not start this business? And something that I've been practicing more recently is when I come to a point where I have two decisions, both of them are coming from the same place. What do I need to do to get? So instead of making the decision, I actually look at the person who's trying to find the right decision. And that's what I shine the light on. So I go inward.
Ooh, okay.
So one of those choices might be right, but if I'm coming from a place where I have to be right so that I can get love and validation, then I'm never going to, even if I choose the right decision, it's never going to work out the way I want it to, or the way that the universe wants it to. So instead of making the decision, I go, wow, this decision is something that's coming up for me. Let me give space to the person or to the part of me that feels that this decision needs to be the right decision.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that is where something even bigger is going to emerge.
Right. So if we can make this practical, then, so I'm faced with the decision.
Okay.
Let's say leave work and go to this new firm, or stay at work. I know, I've been able to carve out, I know how to, the ins and outs, I know the people there, and this new firm, I don't have that, but there's more opportunity there. So you're like, how would, in that situation, what would you give advice to that person?
Well, do you have a personal example of something that you have kind of a decision to make, Tyler? Maybe we can practice this together.
Sure. Let's say, okay, I'm planning on moving right now in April, and I'm trying to find an apartment.
Okay.
And right now we found an apartment, but it's a little bit out of our price range.
Okay.
So I'm having those typical survival instinct money things come up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I'm not sure how much longer this apartment's going to be available for.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you're seeing the problem in the opportunity instead of the opportunity in the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so obviously you're trying to make it what was that?
Queso?
Queso? You're trying to find the right way to do this because you think there is a right way to do this.
Mm.
So go inward for a second, take a breath, and try to feel where that comes from, whether it's in your stomach, your solar plexus, your throat, is it in your head? And just kind of feel that. Do you kind of feel where that is, Tyler?
Mm-hmm. It's in my solar plexus.
Okay, so now what I want you to ask is, what is trying to emerge? What do you want me to know right now? What are you trying to tell me?
It's excited for all the fun little it's excited for when we went and saw it, all these upgrades that I know will make my life definitely easier in a way.
Okay. So is that what's coming up? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a gym in the building, so there's opportunity for, if I wanted to do coaching in there, then I wouldn't have to pay for a facility. And if I could just get one person in that building, it would be pay for it itself.
And though those things are coming up, those sound to me like reasons, like you're trying to convince yourself.
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Sure.
So I'm glad I'm not off on that.
No, that's
because those are all
accurate.
ways that your mind is trying to manipulate you into coming up with that answer. So obviously, whatever it is, we got to spend some time with it, and doing it in a minute probably isn't doing it justice. But just know that, like, I can bounce off of you and be like, yo, I don't know if that sounds like your spirit talking. I think that sounds like your mind trying to make the best out of something. And by the way, thank you for saying that, because I do that all the time. And it allows me to now call bullshit on myself.
Right.
Like, I'll be honest with you, and I know we have a short amount of time because I got to run and coach, but, like, I constantly run into this with my girlfriend. And I'll be honest with you. It's like, should I stay or should I go? Well, we are going to be going on a trip in a month. Like, is that the reason why you want to stay and spend your life with this person? And it's not necessarily, okay, then I should leave, because, you know, that's not the answer either. The answer is go inward and listen to the part of you that's scared. Listen to the part of you who thinks that there needs to be a right answer. And when you listen to that and give that space, you're going to get your real answer.
Yeah. Mike Bledsoe said something about his relationship. Like, he was in a relationship with his wife for 10 years, and they were thinking about splitting. And then he said, the reason that this relationship is going to split up is because I haven't figured out my shit. So I'm just going to take the same shit that made this relationship deteriorate and put that on somebody else.
Yep.
So I'm going to put somebody else through the same thing and put myself through the same thing. So rather than abandoning the relationship, he's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do the inward work to figure my shit out. I'm going to give this relationship some space. Then he came back to it, was completely different perspective on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, now they're in a very loving relationship and are more closely connected than ever.
Yep.
So I think that's a valuable lesson for somebody who is in a relationship, who isn't sure if this person is their person, to do some inward work first before you pull the plug.
Yeah. And I think that's a fantastic place to end for today, Tyler. I got to go. But this was our best podcast yet. If we need to reach you, how can we get to you, Tyler?
You can go to tflowfitness.com, tflofitness.com. You can check out, there's, you know, just my bio and stuff. And if you want to check out anything that's going on, or you can go to T_FLO_fitness at Instagram and check in for some fun, insightful humor content. Awesome. Yeah, all on. What about you, Sean? Where can people find you?
You can get me at flockfitness.com. My Instagram is flockfitness, and also Facebook and that kind of stuff.
Sweet.
All right, Tyler. I'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Real quick, do you know Matt Walrath?
Matt Walrath.
Walrath.
Where's he from?
Lacrosse player. Where's
he from?
I think he played at UNC, maybe? No. He played somewhere lacrosse. Forget. But he knows you.
Really? Where's he from?
He does Beyond Macros.
Oh, wow. I'll have to look him up. Send me his info.
I will.
All right, buddy. I got to go.
All right. Love
Later.
it. Bye.